Уважаемые коллеги, перед вами второй организатор данного семинара, заслуги которого гораздо больше, чем мои, потому что благодаря ей тут вообще все не разваливается на куски, у нас есть все, что нужно, и все вообще работает, двигается и как-то происходит. Вот. Мария Борисовна Кувалдина, ее доклад совместно с Никой Альбертовной Адамяна, Антоном Сергеевичем Говориным, Фамилией Александровной Демещининой и многими другими, как вы видите на экране. Вот. Так что, наверное, без дальнейших предысторий, кроме краски английского. So I'm very glad to present you our next speaker, Maria Kuvaldina, whose credit for the organizing this seminar is much higher than mine. So without her, everything will be falling apart here. So so she had a lot of co-authors. Some of them are listed on the screen, but there are many more, as that says in the end. So.
Thank you. So actually, I would like to talk about my dissertation thesis. So those of you who know it, I mean, lots of, please feel free just to go and get some lunch or anything else, because I mean, like I wouldn't once again talk about all these results that are well known to you. And second, I would like not to make a report on results, rather to discuss some questions, because what happened to me is that after I started to investigate history, affects, and intentional blindness, and I made some research, I could not find some answers to the questions that I stated, so I quit this part of research and I moved to some other topics. Right now I'm kind of returning to this and trying to understand what has happened. So I will rather ask you or for your opinion than try to answer myself, because I don't know answers. So my presentation is about history affects, priming effects in intentional blindness. Intentional blindness phenomena is the inability to notice a saliently novel object while our attention is engaged in some other demanding task. And when we think about what priming is, and we search for priming in literature, we might ask, what is it in its essence? First, as proposed by first researchers of priming, priming is rather the change of reaction times, facilitation or inhibition, so than anything else. So might we call priming effects when we decrease or increase the efficiency of the performing, or we can say that it's not priming or something else. So the question to you, whether you agree that priming is something about the efficiency, and it can be measured not only by reaction times, because there are different opinions. Second, what we might conclude if we don't find any priming effect in our task. It's like, is it possible not to find priming, and what does it mean? I mean, yes, it's possible.
Of course it is.
Huh?
Of course it is possible.
So what does it mean then, if we don't find priming?
That's another question.
Yeah, because when we say that the information stored somehow influences further processing of information, then we might assume that information is stored under certain circumstances, yeah? But when we don't, when we introduce the subject to this situation, but we don't get the priming effect, should we conclude that we didn't have any storage of information? Or should we conclude something else? I don't know. Or rather we can say that priming effect is so kind of unstable effect and might be found only in certain things, certain tasks, but not might be found in another. So it's kind of very complicated question to me. So very shortly I would repeat my design that I used in my dissertation thesis. So I showed to my subjects different tasks that induce an attentional blindness, and one of them was very classical. This one video, well, here I used video shot by Dan Simons, and I used the other one which we also shot for our experiments, where players were playing some basketball game, and the task for the subject was to count ball passes, while there was a woman with an umbrella that passed those players, and we asked our subject whether they noticed it or not. The other paradigm was very similar, but we didn't use like the real video recording. We used the kind of cartoon things. There were sheep, black and white, that were running across the field, and the other, which was gray, larger, and with green horn, and that appeared on the screen and also disappeared after some time. And I also thought that this task would induce intentional blindness. And the third paradigm was used by stigmast and also by Nina's experiments, where we showed them white and black letters, and the task was to count either white or black, and there was a gray cross that appeared on the screen and also passed the horizontal path and disappeared. So all of these things are very, very well known. It's no surprise that we got a high level of intentional blindness in all of them, so about 50% in all our groups. That was first part. The second part was all the tasks that could show us any priming. What were the tasks? The first task was task of recognition, so of degraded image. So when we presented the woman with umbrella under some kind of patches, and this image slowly became visible to the subject, and the subject had to detect what was the silhouette of the person behind these patches, and the patches were taken from this video game, so they actually recognized that it was the same room with the letters S, and there were players playing with the ball, and there was some kind of dark silhouette behind it, so it could be either a woman with umbrella or some other silhouette. And the same type of the recognition task was used where the mask was kind of fully visible. It was the whole scene used, and also women with a woman with umbrella. So this was the first task in the first group. In the other group, where we presented sheep task, we offered them the task of comparison. So they had to compare this image with this image and try to find as many matches, or not matches, that is possible. So for example, you can see that here is the small sheep here in the flower, and here is not. So they should check and draw that they have noticed it. What else? I believe some trees are different. Well, anyways, it was like around 11 differences between these pictures. I can't find them right now. But the critical difference was, that sheep, or the brown, the gray sheep that was presented somewhere, and we checked whether they have noticed it or not in this task of the comparison. It's first. And second, we have checked whether they have outlined it first or second or third. Like we have calculated this measurement of the time needed for defining and finding this visual object.
Is it critical that your critical sheep casts no shadow, while trees do?
I don't know. We didn't use it yet. Well, yeah, it doesn't have any shadow. We didn't think about it. But actually, okay, if it is so salient, they might have found it very, very fast. But we didn't. So the third task with the other group was, after this umbrella woman video, we presented them task of remembering all the details and describing the picture, which was very, I hope that is very well-known picture. They had to look at it for 30 seconds, and after that, just retell the story what was on this picture. So we added the silhouette of a woman on the background, and we hoped that those people who knew what was the picture actually would notice this one as the non-contextual stimulus that was contradictory to the whole idea of the picture, just because this is bright day, summer day, and this woman with umbrella somewhere. So, and it's totally, it was not visible, but at the same time, we could we can assume that our subject would remember, yes, that this Abbey Road photo didn't contain in originally the silhouette of the woman with umbrella. And also the classical recognition task, where they have forced choice task, where they had 4 objects and they had to choose what was presented. And the other, which was similar to the task developed by Ariane Mack, which is STEM completion in her version, when she presented some word and then asked to complete this word to its original form. But we used kind of picture completion task when we showed a very schematic figure of a person and asked them what he or she holds in the hand. And also there was a forced choice version. One of them was umbrella, and the other was flag, the other was pointer, and the other was poster. Anyway, so you see, we choose lots of different tasks. Our idea was very simple. If we have stored any information about a woman with umbrella, or like inattentionally blind object, critical object in the previous video or cartoon, we might somehow reveal this in further tasks. And we showed lots of different tasks to the subjects of different groups, so kind of to check which of the tasks is kind of most sensitive. We've got our tasks divided into 2 groups. One part of task showed negative priming effect and the other positive. And I didn't expect it totally, because I thought that all of the tasks should show us negative priming effect, because I was relying on idea of Professor Lafayette that something that has been ignored previously would be continuously ignored in the task. So I expected all those tasks to show negative priming effect. I did not. So in recognition, in forced choice task, in picture completion task, and in recognition in a simple type, in the recognition of object of a degraded image, but in a very simple mask, we have obtained a positive priming effect, while in comparison task, in the task of retelling the story about Abbey Road and recognition in a very complicated mask, we've obtained negative priming effect. What does it mean? I don't know. The significant. So this is the probability of making a mistake while you are presented the intentional blindness task, and here is the probability of making a mistake once you're presented all of the tasks. So this is like the significant results, the difference here. Well, here was the example. So the reasons for such result could be different. I thought about two of them. First, I thought that could be because second task that was kind of test for priming effect was showing the change of context when compared to the previous intentionally blind task. And thus we can say that maybe completion of the picture was very, very different from the IB task, and that's why they showed positive priming. But after that, I looked again at the results and thought, well, it's a very, very easy explanation. Those tasks that showed negative priming were just harder. That's it. They were really, really complicated for the subject to perform. They made quite a lot of mistakes there. They showed very large reaction time. So maybe it's just because of the complexity of the task. So I'm not the only one who encountered such difficulties while investigating intentional blindness, because actually after the book of Airy and Mack, no one has ever found really great priming effects on this task. Like, usually either they are not found at all, or they are like very diverse, like positive or negative, or none. So I would offer like you two of the studies just to show where I took part, that I took part in. One of them was work with Jason Clark. So here they used a very easy and also well-known paradigm that was used by that is static intentional blindness paradigm, when you're presented the cross and the subject is asked to judge the length of arms of the cross, and for example, let's say like vertical or horizontal, then the mask is shown, and several training trials, and the critical one, some kind of critical object is presented. It could be some complicated photo, it could be some very simple shape, and after that the subject is asked whether you have noticed anything else, but not the main task, stimulus. So the stimulus set that was shown to subjects contained landscapes, and actually we investigated whether it is possible to get a gist in IB task. So the idea dates back to the experiment that we talked with Paulina yesterday of Fili, Koch, Van Hooven, that they presented some very bright pictures, landscapes, and shown that subjects are able to grasp the idea of this image, though it's very complicated, and define whether it contains an animal. So here we also presented landscapes and thought that, well, if the gist is, as an effect, is stronger than IB, then our subject would notice all these landscapes and find all of them. Here are the types of the, here are the types of the photos presented, and I'm not sure whether you see or not, but well, here is the mountain, birthday with people, farm, people skating, runners, hotel, sportsmen, and some hall, like concert hall. So we got that we had 4 different conditions when the stimulus was on periphery or central, when the attention was divided or it was inattention. And we've got that in all conditions, especially in inattention condition, the only image actually that showed some kind of more or less higher percent of detection was the image that contained faces. So it was the image with a birthday picture. Anything else didn't show any statistical level of recognition while it was presented in the IB trial. So thus we can say that we did not get any gist, actually. Well, okay, we've got intentional blindness, that's cool, but if it is an intentional blindness, it might produce some priming effect, we thought. So we presented all those pictures as a forced choice. So for example, we would present this mountain picture with some other pictures of landscapes, and would ask the subject whether it was presented to him or not, and just choose the picture. It was four pictures, forced choice. And we got we got actually negative version of priming effect, that those who reported no gist, so those who were intentionally blind, that was like lighter bars here, they in all conditions recognized less than chance. Less than chance doesn't mean that they have negative priming, but it's just nothing or some kind of negative, we don't know. So does it mean that intentional blindness is some kind of strange phenomenon that doesn't produce any priming at all? Okay, we might investigate it differently we might show them not IB task first and then the test second. We might change. We might first show them some priming inducing task and then check it on intentional blindness. That's what we did at most. So we presented them negative priming task, which was 2 digits, and they had to report, for example, on green and ignore red light, the digit or vice versa. So ignore red and report green digit. They were neutral condition where they had a report only 1, or report 1 with the presence of some other symbol but not the digit. So it's a classical negative priming paradigm that was used in Steve Tipper's experiments and all others. After that, after we produced this negative priming effect, we have shown them classical intentional blindness task that was used in the previous experiment. So this cross task, mask, and the question about the cross, and the question about the digits. So in the critical trial there was green triangle as a object that we were interested in, and we asked whether they noticed it or not. So what we assumed is that if people have shown the negative priming effect in the previous task, they would less notice it in IB task. Oh. I'm sorry, that's too slow. Yeah, sure, we got it. We got negative priming. So those who were ignoring the green digit in the previous task were less likely to notice it in the IB task. That's great. But when we compared reaction to red and green, we found that this reaction is different. So actually, it was only green one that showed the negative priming effect. And when our subjects were ignoring red one, they actually could not ignore it in IB task. So actually, the red was so salient feature that overcame the consequences of negative priming effect. Okay? So, what we've got first, negative prime, like an intentional blindness task can show or not show priming, first. Second, an intentional blindness task can show negative priming and positive priming effects. Those priming effects are dependent on not very small difference. Of course, difference between red and green is a huge one, but at the same time, if we assume that priming is a strong history effect that it may overcome all other, but not. So maybe the priming in intentional blindness is so small effect that it does not, it cannot be shown in some further subsequent tasks. Or maybe something is wrong with intentional blindness itself as a phenomenon. So that's what I thought, because maybe this task somehow includes such processes that block the idea of priming itself. Well, that's the question that might be the question that I might ask you, because what do you think about some of differences in tasks, differences in phenomena that might show or not show priming effect. And the last one, Professor Christensen has mentioned in his lecture in today, and Professor Lahvedov has mentioned it. If we claim priming to be the mechanism that helps us stabilize the work picture, what happens in intentional blindness task that doesn't stabilize the picture? Because if it doesn't work there, then the IB is kind of critical for showing that we do not stabilize the picture, and thus we don't get priming effect after that. Okay, thank you for your attention. Очень кратко тогда перевод. Если очень кратко, я рассказала про старые исследования диссертационные, я рассказала про наши исследование с функциональной слепотой, там, где мы пытались найти прайминг в задачах. Мы предъявляли разного типа задачи, индуцирующие слепоту, а в дальнейшем мы просили испытуемых каким-то образом отреагировать на тот самый объект, который они ранее не видели, в задачах другого типа. Да? Это были задачи опознания, сравнения, узнавания и так далее. И мы получили разбиение нашей задачи на два класса. Один из них показал позитивный прайминг, один из них показал негативный прайминг. И мы, я, собственно, не знаю, почему это случилось, предполагаю, что, возможно, потому что задачи, которые показали негативный прайминг, были на порядок сложнее. Если бы это была единственная проблема с слепотой по невниманию, было бы все хорошо, но другие исследователи, по большому счету, тоже не обнаруживают стабильного прайминг-эффекта слепоте по невниманию, так как я показывала, например, задачу, которую использовала Эрин Мак и Джессин Кларк, в которой они, показывая слепоту по невниманию на яркие изображения природы, потом обнаружили, что испытуемые не способны их узнать с частотой выше случайного. Хотя эта фотография должна у них была вызвать мгновенное схватывание смысла картинки, то, что называется джест. Но если мы пойдем обратным путем, да, и попробуем индуцировать прайминг в слепоте по невниманию, как это сделал Стив Мост, мы получаем этот прайминг, да, то есть если мы создаем процедуру, в которой мы что-то игнорируем и потом показываем задачку слепоты по невниманию, казалось бы, мы получаем прайминг, этот прайминг чувствителен даже к цвету. То есть если мы меняем цвет объекта, на который мы вырабатываем негативный прайминг, потом, в зависимости от этого, мы не получаем или получаем влияние взаимозадачи на слепоту по невниманию. То есть она оказывается очень-очень чувствительной ко всем возможным изменениям. Вопрос, что делает прайминг вообще? Да? Могут ли существовать такие задачки, в которых прайминг в принципе не существует? Чем тогда они отличаются от тех, которых прайминг показывается? Да? Если прайминг это некоторый механизм стабилизации, там, не знаю, истории, нового восприятия, гипотез относительно окружающего мира, почему в этой задаче он не срабатывает или срабатывает через раз? Да, что такого конкретно вот в феномене слепоты по невниманию и вообще в функциональной слепоте? Да? И вообще, что вы думаете по поводу того, что такое прайминг? Это на самом деле был вопрос к дискуссии.
Вопросы? Questions?
Well, actually, it is not a question. It is a comment, or maybe it is something to think about as a possible answer to your main question. I think that the priming can be the matter of attention. So when you're inducing intentional blindness, you're manipulating with attention, and but manipulations are rather unstable under these conditions. And the finding that gist is unavailable under these conditions is not surprising for me, at least, because there are more and more studies, including my own studies, showing that the gist can be extracted from a scene only under attention, even not under focused attention, maybe under distributed attention, but certainly it requires attention. And so when attention is fully engaged in your primary task, such as counting ball passes or something else, so it is fully diverted from other stimuli, and so I think they are not processed to a degree to cause priming or something like this. Well, that's my opinion.
So you think that priming is the result of attention, and thus when we divert attention
not
from
completely,
it,
not completely, of course, but I think that it should be a critical condition. Значит, я предложил как возможную интерпретацию всего того, о чем Маша говорила, собственно, через внимание. То есть речь идет о том, что прайминг, по всей видимости, без внимания не проявляется, поскольку задача на слепоту по невниманию, там очень такие тонкие манипуляции с вниманием, когда-то срабатывают в большей степени, когда-то в меньшей. Поэтому там может получаться, что где-то есть, где-то нет. Вот, даже вот этот самый gist, вот это общий смысл сцены, не получается схватить без внимания хотя бы широко распределенного. Вот, и, собственно говоря, одна из причин таких важных, которые я здесь вижу, это именно полная вовлеченность внимания в основную задачу, которая просто снижает переработку остальных стимулов до той степени, которая необходима для того, чтобы прайминг возник.
Ну, это здорово, тогда это говорит, что такой задачки мы на самом деле полностью переносим внимание на некоторую основную задачу, что на самом деле очень-очень дискуссионный вопрос. Oh, yeah, I answered that if we take this interpretation, that we might assume that in IB tasks, we totally control that attention is engaged in the primary task, which is...
Not totally, of course. What I mean exactly, because sometimes you manage to do that, and sometimes maybe not.
Понятно, манипуляции кривые, непонятно все, соответственно...
Нет, можно сказать, да, что все плохо и как бы забыть об этом. Но...
It can result in unpredictable effects. Attention is a very...
Заданный вопрос предполагает, что Игорь знает, что такое внимание.
Конечно. The question asked like assumes that Igor knows what is attention.
Oh, we have other questions.
First, I didn't know this word before, unfortunately, so maybe I didn't get everything right. But did I get it right that you had two types of priming? And one priming, inattentional blindness, was a primer that affected someone else and or the opposite side, the opposite kind of task, some other task was a primer before inattentional blindness. Okay, it wasn't clear what affected what. Both. Okay, and the task of Mac and Clark, I think, used very well for recording about potential. Did anybody record them in this situation?
Ariel has done...
I would expect that what potentials would be reduced or somehow changed or delayed in this task. It is very well, it's ideal task to study what potentials. So you
It's not
don't
that
know
ideal
any-
actually.
First we need to translate it back.
Yeah.
Ну, первый вопрос был про то, что являлось праймером чего, оказалось и то, навстречу, да? А второй вопрос был, что задача Кларка или Мэка, или как я их правильно произношу или нет, с крестом, где нужно было оценивать размер креста, и появляются дополнительные различные фигуры, визажи, треугольники и так далее. Хорошая задача для слепоты по невниманию. Для меня она совершенно идеальна по своей структуре для записи вызванных потенциалов. Ну, соответственно,
Вот об этом нужно поговорить, потому что не идеально.
Не идеально?
Ну, конечно, потому что одновременно предъявляем два стимула, мы не можем разделить их влияние.
Прям так одновременно,
Да,
без
да,
задержки?
да, да, там без задержки. Если задержка, то возникает эффекты памяти отдельно.
Можно читать.
Хорошо, давайте подумаем.
Тут есть на чем подумать.
Yeah, I just answered that. It's just ongoing study. So.
There is a lot of things to discuss about it.
Yeah. So it's just ongoing study in ORP and inattentional blindness.
I was wondering, like in the late 19th century, they were searching for the ether, and Michelson and Morley, they didn't find it.
Yeah.
It's just discovered it's not there. So I was thinking, as the way I think of priming as priming of attention shifts, and you're looking for it in attentional blindness. So something to think about. Is there something like, and it's related to the former question. Is there any reason to expect it under inattentional blindness? I mean, I see you found it in some paradigms, but sort of strictly inattentional blindness. Would you I guess it's a semantic question. You're looking for inattentional blindness in an attentional paradigm. you understand what I mean?
I didn't get. Well, I'm using actually classical intentional blindness tasks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm using sustained intentional blindness and static intentional blindness. Both of them are classics.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
of
but
them.
I'm wondering just, you know, if priming is of attention shifts, would you expect it in attentional blindness?
What we expect, like that's the problem of interpreting what is intentional blindness. If it is some problems with attention, then we might expect some problems with awareness. Then might not. So that was the thing that we were talking yesterday with Polina, how we interpret this phenomenon. Because we might say that it's the awareness in the absence of attention, or the attention in the absence of availability to the consciousness of access. And thus it might be different. Я очень кратко переведу. Вопрос состоял в том, что не является ли поиск прайминга в таких задачах фактически поиском несуществующего эфира, потому что, ну как же так, если мы работаем с сдвигами внимания, с отсутствием внимания в данной парадигме, почему мы должны обнаружить какие-то прайминг-эффекты, которые, в общем-то, являются результатом, в том числе, обращения внимания. На что я ответила, что название не определяет сущность феномена, потому что мы не знаем, является ли слепота по невниманию результатом отвлеченного внимания, но при условии наличия некоторой осознанности стимула, или наоборот, да, то есть осознанности при отсутствии внимания. Да, поэтому и так можно сказать.
More questions? Еще вопросы?
It is a question about your negative priming procedure. As I understand from your pictures, you presented your observers with two spatially non-overlapping digits.
Yep.
One of them was green and the other
Yep,
was
yep.
red. But when you're referring to tippers
It was
down,
overlapping,
yes,
yeah.
and so it makes observers to really ignore the green.
And thus it could be better. Like if they're really, really ignored, then we might expect that everything should have worked in IB tasks.
But anyway, I think that when you're presenting the observers only two digits, which are very easy to perceive, so how can the observer ignore one of them? It is so easy to pay attention to both and to store it in your working memory.
Okay, maybe. Вопрос состоял в том, что процедура вызывания индуцированного негативного прайминга в одном из экспериментов была нечистой, потому что конкретная парадигма типпера, например, предполагает наложение двух силуэтов для усиления ингибиции, которая там происходит. У нас это было разведено, но это было разведено на самом деле на небольшие угловые размеры, то есть это не было вот так вот, да, это было вот так вот. Следовательно, тот эффект слабый, который мы получили, может быть результатом практически не встраивания процесса торможения.
Ну и можно было бы добавить, что у типпера все-таки не только с наложением контуров негативный прайминг получается, с ситуацией, когда они в разных положениях, там тоже
да,
есть.
там же есть интенсивная штука. Просто такая классика, которая... Спасибо.
Да.